everybody, and welcome to the show, Columbus. I'm Alicia, and I am so fortunate today to have the most wonderful group of people here with me. Have representatives from 3 different first responder divisions. First, we have Captain Gene Hull, who is with the Columbus Department of Fire and EMS, which is Emergency Medical Services. He's a captain in the training division, and he's been with the fire department for 36 years, and we welcome you here. So glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
And in the middle is Lieutenant Tim Wynn, who is training director with Columbus Police Department representing law enforcement. And we'll find out a little more about what that entails, how long you've been there, and how long before you get to take a break. And thank you so much for coming.
Glad to be here.
And I have to say I'm particularly proud of this young lady right here because I can claim her as my own, even if she doesn't want me to. This is my daughter. Her name is Jamie Benefield. She says she is nationally registered paramedic licensed in Georgia and Alabama. She's an instructor, preceptor. She was previously a flight medic and a tactical medic. She has over 22 years in emergency medical services and currently is a paramedic in the emergency room at Piedmont Regional Hospital in Columbus. And she also works as a paramedic with EMS Care part-time on the ambulance. So I'm really proud of her. She wears a lot of hats. She does a good job.
Thank you.
So we're just going to try to devote this show today to making public aware of how we seem to take those 3 little buttons, 911, for granted, and the people who show up after we've dialed them. We need to realize that they are there for us, and it's a lot more than clocking in, doing a little job, and then clocking back out. They could make a lot more money doing different jobs, but they choose this life, and they choose it for a reason. It's important to them, and it means the world to them. So we need to remember how special they are and tell them thank you when we see them in public places. They do for us when we can't do for ourselves. And I'm going to start down here with Captain Hull, and you've been with the fire department for how long now?
36 years. I started in 1981.
How did you get started?
I was working at a cotton carpet mill, Old Columbus carpet mill, and it just didn't seem like there was any future there for me. So I started putting applications here and there, and I knew a lot of people who were on the fire department. Mm-hmm. So I put my application in, and I got lucky. They called me, and I made the cut.
Wow.
And I've been doing it ever since.
And are you going to retire soon?
Hopefully in about 17 months.
And I'm sure you'll have to find something to do with that time. You're so used to running at a fast pace, huh?
I'm sure my wife will find something for me to do. There's no doubt about that.
Lieutenant Wynn, how long have you been with the Columbus Police Department?
I've been there 30 years. I started first of '88 right after I got finished with college, and here I am 30 years later.
Was that something you just always wanted to be, was a policeman?
Well, my uncle was a police officer in Warner Robins, Georgia, and he was over the motorcycle division there, and when I was a kid, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, and that's what I wanted to do, and eventually that's what I did do for 20 years. I was on the motorcycle unit as an officer and a sergeant for 20 years, and most of the others I had a couple of years in patrol, and the rest been in training. So.
And I imagine training has its own special requirements too, doesn't it? For both
Yes,
of you.
we have 6 on the staff up there, and really good people that care a lot about our department, and that's the key. This is, law enforcement, kind of like EMS fire. The guys there. This is not just a job; it's a calling, and it's. If your heart's not in this job, you're not going to last. Usually, it's something that we want to do and be there. And of course, a lot of times folks kind of question your mental status. When you have people shooting at you and things of this nature, and you continue to do the job. But I'm gonna be honest. When I first started, I couldn't believe they were paying me to do the job. It was so much fun, and the camaraderie we have, and it's even with the guys with the fire department, EMS. It's a brother and sisterhood. All of us we pull together and work as one for the betterment of our community. A lot of people forget that this is our community also, and we want the best place possible to live with our families also. And a lot of times that gets lost in the mix. We're not separated from everyone. We just want to make it a better place for everyone, and that's. You ask each and every one of the guys that I work with. You ask the fire guys, the EMS guys, all of those. That's basically what we want is a better place to live. And,
Right.
And that's get down to brass tacks. That's it. So
I understand. Jamie, of course, I know how you got started, but nobody else does. And you said something a little while ago you weren't going to say, but I want you to say it. How did you get started?
Well, to be a veterinarian was my first choice in life since I was a little bitty girl. Paramedic was my second choice, so it was always there. And I couldn't afford to go to vet school. Couldn't have the time or money for vet school, so here I am.
And, you know, I will say this. Jamie is right now, 2 weeks post-op?
3.
Almost 3 weeks after her second semi-work-related injury. She has degenerative disc disease, but it's also exacerbated by the job that she does. And she can't wait to get back on the ambulance. Just can't wait. And Double D, we'll talk about him later. You'll find out who that is. Said to me the other day on the phone that he just hoped he could get back to work and start putting out some more fires and training some people. And I don't know if I could be that brave. I just don't.
That's all we know.
It's addictive.
It has to be.
No, you know, I'll say this, that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce
No,
Tim.
that's
Tim's back
fine.
behind the scenes,
Hello,
working all the
guys.
computer stuff. I'm
They-
sorry, Tim Childry.
They know I'm here, they just ignore me, but, you know what, we here in the studio, had a incident a few, minutes ago. We had a wasp. And I have never felt safer than having these 3 individuals, especially this gentleman in the middle. He was armed, so
It was a hornet, not a
a
wasp.
hornet. There you go.
And Jamie,
But it was one of those flying creatures that I did not have any.
what you didn't see was, I just said Jamie's 3 weeks out of this neck back surgery, right? And when you sprayed the hornet and he took a nosedive to the couch, she went, and she threw her head back. She went, oh, oh, oh.
Oh, I felt so badly. I do apologize. I have one guest in here, and the hornet went straight for her. So
See, we always have fun here, even when we talk about serious things. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I've been so looking forward to this particular show, and I'm going to try to keep it down to a minimum, but he knows how I am when I'm into something, and so you guys just take your shoes off, make yourself at home.
well, do me a favor and kind of face the mic a little bit.
Face the mic a little
There you
bit.
go.
I'm so sorry. Okay, Captain Hull. First of all, let me ask you, are you acquainted with Captain David Davis, Double D? Do you know him personally?
I don't know him personally, but I worked with his brother. His brother was a firefighter, EMT, paramedic here in Columbus for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I know his brother, but I don't know him personally. No.
But now you also are in the training division, and I know that he trains as well. Tell us a little bit about what that training involves. How do you do that?
Well, as far as the training for our department, we train our personnel in-house. We have our own training academy, so we take them from cadet all the way through, the veterans. So we get them right out of the bat, right out of the gate. We try to teach them the right thing to do. Try to teach them why we do the things that we do, and give them the safety and their or confidence in their equipment that they can do their job safely. As far as injuries on the fire side, they're minor injuries are pretty commonplace, but we train to try to stay out of those situations. We deal a lot with what we call situational awareness. We try to be aware, and I'm sure PD and EMS does it also, but we try to be aware of our surroundings at all times so that we're not surprised
Right.
when something goes wrong. And we drill and we drill and we drill. And so when they get out of cadet class and they go to the field, then we're responsible for the training of everybody in the department. They have to have, for ISO hours, so insurance organization, they have to have annually 180 hours of training. So we have to make sure that gets taken care of.
So when you guys come after that 911 call is placed and you show up on the scene and you're fighting the fire and you're rescuing the people or whatever, you've been instructed on what to do, what not to do, how to best make that happen as quickly as possible. You've been taught that, and we can rely on you to really get in there and give it all you got.
Yeah, we try to train our personnel in that fashion, and we try to make sure that our leadership on those trucks, because we work as a group, we don't work individually, and we try to make sure that our leadership on those trucks can make sound decisions, and that they're capable of analyzing the situation and making the right calls.
Okay.
We go with a kind of a mantra. We risk a lot to save a lot, and we risk a little to save a little.
Okay.
So if we know that there's a risk that we might have to take to rescue somebody, and it's a viable rescue and we can make that call, then we're gonna do everything we can to go in and get that person. But if the house is a total loss and we can't send our personnel in there and they can't survive in there, then we have to make that tough call to, maybe,
And I'm sure
maybe
it
we
is
can't do
tough.
that.
And we're going to touch on those things in just a little while. Let me move around to Lieutenant Wynn for just a second. Now, you're also a training director, and your training is probably similar but different because of the type of work that you do. What do your guys go through as far as training is concerned to become a good police officer or
Well,
policeman?
We start out with our guys. They come in as new hires and recruits. Pre-academy, they come in. We train them for approximately 3 weeks on firearms, and we get them. We started from ground zero up with the firearm and teach them all the fundamentals, how to maintain the weapon, and of course how to handle it properly, and from ground zero up to where they're very sound shooters before they go to the academy. Of course, they're in the academy for 10 weeks, and then they come back to us, and we have an in-house training similar to what the fire department has. And we train our guys, we teach them in specialty things and tactics that will help them survive on the street. We also cover departmental policy, we cover case law, we cover a lot of different things, constitutional law and things of this nature, and the policies within our department.
That
which
has to be
allows-
frustrating, the little fine points there. It has to be really frustrating to find that line.
Well, not really. It's we pound these fundamentals and things into their head so much that it's pretty much like a reflex when they get out on the street, because they have been so familiarized with it that they, rather than think, they react, and we're usually reacting off an action, so you're already behind the 8 ball, so you really got to pretty much have the process where it's a reflex to react to what is happening in front of you. And
Sure, I can see that.
our guys do an outstanding job of applying what needs to be applied, and the application of that. And it is a tough job, but there's a lot of tough jobs out there. But if you're equipped, and what I mean by that, equipped mentally, and that's probably 75%
I would
of
think
it.
so, yeah.
Because the other parts are fine. Things that you have to do are fine motor skills, but you've got to be on top of your game when it comes to application processes and reactions to those, or reaction to an action. And we do a lot of that before they hit the road. And then, of course, they're with us for 8 weeks. And then after they finish with us, they go out and they ride with a field training officer for another 8 to 12 weeks. So our guys, before you see a solo officer, they've been in training for approximately 6 months
Wow.
before they hit the road by themselves. So
Wow.
they've had pretty extensive training, and I have to say our guys do an outstanding job. I mean, they really do, and I'm really proud of the product that we put on the street, because these guys they put their heart into it, and they want to make this a better place. That's for sure.
Good. Okay, Jamie, it's your turn. What is required, and I know there's divisions, you've got your medics, and then you work your way up to paramedic. What do you have to go through? What schooling do you have to learn to do what you do?
Well, there are 3 levels. It's EMT, basic, advanced, and then paramedic. Medic and paramedic are the same thing.
Okay.
Basic is just your first aid and your first response type things, and then you just add to it. The advanced adds some more skills and knowledge, and then the paramedic adds some more skills and knowledge, and is usually the one in charge of the truck. And then in your team, it'll be
And when you say truck, you're talking about the ambulance.
ambulance.
It took me a while to figure
the
that out.
ambulance. And usually it is a paramedic and a basic on an ambulance. Usually, there's exceptions to that rule. Sometimes you have 2 advanced or an advanced and a basic if they're running a non-ALS truck. And sometimes you have
And what is ALS?
advanced life support. That is a medic, a paramedic. It's advanced life support when you have a paramedic on the truck. And you have a BLS truck, which is basic life support and mostly used for transfers and things like that. But usually on the 911 trucks, you have a paramedic. At least one. A lot of places have 2, not a lot of places.
And you go to places such as accidents or heart attacks or wrecks on the highway, a little bit of everything. And you never-
Everything.
You just never know what the day's gonna bring.
Never know until you get there. It's usually not the same as what you hear you're going to. When you get there is what it actually is.
You said something a long time ago, you were talking to me, and I get the privilege of hearing a lot of things that she has to do, not specific people or anything like that, but you mentioned something that has never left my mind, and I want people to understand this. Explain that golden hour.
The golden hour is the amount of time from you get hurt until you are in the surgery room. Not the time I get there, not the time I get you to the hospital. It is from when you get hurt until in surgery.
And what
So
happens
that's-
if you go beyond that golden
Well,
hour?
your I don't know the word I'm trying to think of. Your survival rate it goes down after that very quickly.
So you guys are like, hustle, 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 get there as quick as
Yeah.
you can, do
Well, the
as much
time's
as you
already
can.
gone when we get there. We're already in the golden hour.
So you're operating under a time restraint and constraint, and you've got the situation itself, and if you have somebody has to be cut out of the car, you guys are doing your thing, or if there's a fire there, that slows you down, and so you are just beating that clock all the time to try to save a life.
Well, I can't do my job until both of their jobs are done.
Correct.
Like, I can't go in until he's cleared it for him to go in, and I can't go in until he's cleared it for me to go in. So we all rely on each other to if I can't do my job, if he doesn't do his, somebody may kill
And
him.
so basically, you're all just fighting the clock.
Absolutely.
Because those percentages keep dropping as it
Absolutely.
gets further, yeah. So
Yep.
these guys actually work as a team.
Yep.
Sure.
So it, kind of explains when I sit here at the house and I see a fire truck, and then,
Then an ambulance.
yeah, every time, you see why they go by, and now, yeah, it
Right.
explains a lot of
The reason you
things.
see
Interesting.
The reason you see a fire truck is now all of our personnel are trained to be firefighters, and then we turn right around and we send them to
EMT school.
EMTA. And so 80% of our personnel are cross-trained as firefighters and EMTs or paramedics. So when a fire truck pulls up, there's a real good chance
You got
that
some
you're gonna
medical
have
help
a
already.
paramedic on that truck.
Get that stuff started.
And
Or
there's
at
more-
least in advanced.
And there's more fire trucks running around out there than we have ambulances.
Right.
So we can get there quicker, we can start.
Stabilize,
that
getting
golden
ready.
hour,
Yep.
And makes
start
your job a
treatment.
little easier, you're ahead
Right,
of the game.
absolutely. Makes my job
So
way
you-
easier.
You see guys watching at home, listen closely as we go through this, because this didn't just happen by accident. These people sat down, planned this whole scheme of things, and they put it together, and they worked together, and it's all for us. It's for us. It's not because they get any glory, because goodness knows they don't. And that's another thing I would like to encourage you to do. If you're in Walmart, if you're at the mall, or if you just happen to be sitting at McDonald's and you see someone in uniform, or you see the ambulance attendant stop to get a quick cup of coffee, take just a moment and go over and say, I really appreciate what you're doing for us. We rely on you, and thank you for being there. It's very, very important. And they don't do it for glory, and they'll probably blush or whatever, but do that anyway. These are great people, and we couldn't make it without them. When we hit those three magic numbers, 911, and they don't show up, we're lost. So be sure to appreciate them and to thank them. Okay, now I want to get into something else that I think people may not know about, and you talked to me on the phone about this one night. Everything that each one of you does has associated risks, and it can be physical risk, where you could get injured yourself or even killed. It could be emotional risk or mental risk, because the sights that you see on a daily basis, how do you deal with that? Or it could be subjecting your family to hardships that makes mental anguish. But I want to start. Well, you told me something when we were on the phone about causes of death for firemen, something that I had never really thought about. I want you to explain the risks involved, first of all.
Well, there's about three main risks that firefighters, are faced with year in, year out. There's a group called NIOSH. It's the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, and they keep up with what's called line of duty deaths. And line of duty deaths are deaths that occur for firefighters while they're on duty, and if they respond to a fire 24 hours after they respond to that fire. And traditionally in the United States in the fire service, we, or historically for about the last 20 years or so, we lose on average of about 100 firefighters a year due to different things. Excuse me. 60% of those every year are cardiac events. And we were told for years it was because of our lifestyle.
The heart-related thing.
Right. So we tried to rectify that fact, and we started putting gym equipment in the stations. And, you know, you go by a fire station now at 5 o'clock, and it looks like a CrossFit gym. You got guys out there working out. But the cardiac events didn't decrease. So we did more investigation, and we found out that it's due to the smoke that we inhale and the products of combustion, the gases that are given off during the products of
It's not
combustion.
just simple smoke. It's that toxic stuff that houses and buildings are made of, or that they're in a car or whatever.
Well, I mean, look, I challenge your viewers, look around their house, look around the room. How many natural elements do you have in your house now? Everything's plastic. Everything's synthetic fibers. And when they burn, they give off toxic fumes. We wear our BAs to protect us from that, but all those chemicals are embedded in our gear. And when we take that mask off, we inhale it from our gear. And one of the more nasty gases that we get exposed to is hydrogen cyanide. And hydrogen cyanide is it attacks our heart. It'll kill the cells in your heart. And we may just get one little exposure to it at one fire, and it kills one cell. But
How many
your heart,
fires do you go to in a year?
right, and your heart cells do not regenerate. So if you kill enough cells in your heart, that leads to a cardiac event. And there's 60% of our deaths every year is cardiac events. Going down the line with that is traffic accidents, responding to calls and, you know, getting involved in accidents. And that accounts for about 24% of our deaths. And then on down the line is actual firefighting activities.
That's on the lower end of the scale, isn't
It's
it?
about 10%.
Now, you mentioned lung cancer, though.
Right now in the
And not
United
your
States,
typical lung cancer like we normally think of as smoking cigarettes and get lung cancer, but there was something special about lung cancer.
well, right now in the United States, the number one killer of firefighters, that's all firefighters, active duty, retired, career, volunteer, is cancer. Cancer this past year became the number one killer. Had been cardiac events.
What did they attribute that?
It's
That surprised me.
It's the same thing that we were talking about. It's the products of combustion that adhere to our garments and that we're exposed to year in and year out. We go into a fire, and I guess an easy way to equate it for somebody who really doesn't know is if you go to a campfire, all right, you spend the night out there at the campfire. When you leave and walk away, the person you walk up to, they're going to know that you were
You
at the
smell it at the
campfire
campfire.
because you can smell it. Those products of combustion are the products that didn't combust adhere to your garments and to your skin and to other things that you have on in your hair and things like that. So, you know, it radiates from it. Well, same thing happens at a house fire. That stuff gets on our garments, it gets inside our garments, and we get exposure to our skin. And we're in a superheated environment with 100 pounds of equipment on and 3 layers of coat and
But
jacket.
that's just not enough, is
So
it?
we're going to sweat, so our pores open up, and all those products soak into our body, and you know that leads to cancer. So,
But these guys still do that for us, knowing those dangers. Just we need to remember that.
well, we're learning, and we're trying to take steps to change this. We've got to change our whole culture of firefighting. It started back in the 80s when we started wearing breathing apparatus. Now it's commonplace, but back then it wasn't. You know, you had to man up.
Right.
And I like to tell my cadets every year, if you go back, watch TV Land or Nick at Night, and you watch the old emergency TV shows, that's exactly the way we did it back in the
They
80s.
just ran in with a little hat and coat and
Coat,
go for
hat,
it.
and that was it. We wore our fatigue pants, and we wore whatever we had on our feet. We didn't have the bunker gear. We kept that for night fires. We didn't wear it during the day. But now we go in, we're more protected than ever, and we're still being affected by these chemicals.
Okay, Lieutenant Wynn, I know that all of you have similar risks and things that you face, but each department has something unique about it. And you as a police person, we know the obvious risk that you have, you know, the obvious dangers, but there's a lot more involved in the sacrifice that you make by being a policeman. Can you tell us a little more about how your feelings on that?
Well, the training that we receive, you know, it does kind of, just like Captain Hole just said a minute ago, we see tendencies in training, and we see things that happen and trends that happen in our profession, and we try to make corrective training responses to that, and we start specializing. Over the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years, we've had a big increase in ambushes of officers and things of this nature, and we've started having to train. He spoke of situational awareness. It's very tough to combat that. I mean, it really is. That's probably the toughest trend we've had to work with as a profession, because if you got someone up there hiding in the weeds, it's kind of hard to defend that. We have trends where driving habits. He spoke of that. We lose a large number of officers to accidents, vehicle accidents, what I mean, motorcycle accidents. I've lost 2 partners from motorcycle crashes in my career. It was in my squad. My brother-in-law was shot and killed at our department. So these are things that I've seen firsthand what it does to a family. And of course, some of the friends, they were like brothers to me. They were my brothers. I mean, they're my sisters and my brothers. I mean, we're each other's lifeline out on the street. And I feel the same way with the fire department, EMS guys. I do. We're all a family, and we kind of work toward a common goal, and we kind of have to watch after one another, because if we don't, nobody, a lot of other folks aren't going to do it. So I mean, we're kind of in this together, and that's kind of the way we work our training. You know, that's your lifelines. And when you go through your training, you build a bond that it's kind of hard to explain. When you're sitting there and you're in battle next to somebody, so to speak, when you're say you have a big brawl out in the street, okay, if you got to, ain't too many folks want to run right in the middle of a brawl with about 30 people fighting, but we don't really have a choice in that matter. We have to go in there. But at that point, I trust in God and I trust in this uniform. And after that, it gets kind of short. So that's kind of the way we train when we have to do things
Just
like
react.
this. And we react to it and deal with it. So,
But that training is very important to that natural reaction that you don't have to stop and think and get a book.
that's right. And it's all relative to, as he was speaking of a fire, as she was speaking of, if you're at a crash and you've got that golden hour, it all is relative to each of our careers, but in the big picture, it all kind of works as one. And the ultimate goal is just to make things better. But as far as trends, we lose officers to accidents. We've had training accidents. You have vehicle accidents, and those are things that can be prevented if we can start doing a little bit better as far as situational awareness of our officers, because those should not happen.
But some things you have no way of knowing.
Some of them you can't control, but a lot of things can be controlled by how we train things, and when train these officers, and when things happen that shouldn't happen, I kind of personally take that personal, because that's my job to make sure that does not happen, and that kind of hits home pretty hard when it happens like that, because somewhere along the line I feel that there was a breakdown in their training and it could have been prevented. So these are things that we have to look at to make things better. And there's a lot of pressure. You can ask Captain Hole. There's a lot of pressure in what we have to do here to make sure that our guys are and gals. And when I say guys, I'm not saying we have it's
I say
gals.
guys
We're all
the
guys.
time.
It's-
Gotta be all inclusive.
and but the brothers and sisters and I, we're all a family, and when something happens to one of my family members, it bothers me. And if it's from a I guess an oversight maybe in a training process that we didn't quite see that angle and it happens, that don't set right. So that's why we look at trends, because trends kind of help us in the ever-changing world, so to speak, of our job.
And
It
it's
has
a daily
constantly
thing,
revolving,
isn't
it's
it?
correct.
It's just a continuous, all the
is.
time,
It is.
looking for a better way, looking for a better way.
You know, like Lieutenant was talking about with training, our skills are perishable. If we don't use them on a regular basis, then we're not proficient at them.
Right.
So the more we train, you know.
And your
the
training
more-
is ongoing to some degree too, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, all of our field personnel have to conduct 6 3-hour drills at our training academy every year. So we have to go down there for live fire drills, and we just go down and do just our regular core skills.
Okay.
And then plus, you know, our guys do EMS skills as well. So,
Well, Jamie, you know, we've talked about the risks and the medical risk, the physical risk, and I hate to dump this on you because you're female, but you're the last one in line. But I want you to, and you guys can step in, but talk about the emotional involvement, whether you're a firefighter and you're at a fire with a car or a house and there are people involved, or the policeman in a tragic situation, or a paramedic who is working with a family who's been in a wreck or whatever the situation. What is the emotional involvement to you personally and to your family as a result of your job?
Well, there's advantages and disadvantages for sure. And I would want to hit on one thing that they were talking about earlier, the situational awareness. You can be going to the exact same call, the exact same day, in the exact same conditions, and it turn out completely different than the
Exactly.
last week when those exact things
Exactly.
happened. So you don't ever get complacent. That's one thing you can never get complacent. You've got to constantly look around. Because if it can happen, it will happen.
Murphy.
My problem emotionally is I want to fix it all. I just want to fix it all. I want to fix it quick, and sometimes I can't, and so that bothers me. When I go home, I always, backtrack and get myself my feedback and what could I have done different, and then I beat myself up because I should have, would have, could have. But again, no situation is ever the same. So you can't say, well, next time I'm gonna do it this way, because next time something's gonna get in your way. So you can't be complacent. You can't let it bother you. You got to shrug it off. You don't want to, but you got to shrug it off. And then it just gets buried, and you become callous. Same way if you run a shovel your whole life, you get calluses on your hands. You see people hurt all the time and crying, you become callous. And if you are
have
going
to.
to do a good job at your job, you have to become callous.
Right.
You have to worry later. You can't worry then. Like he was saying, you don't have time to think. You have to react, good or bad. Something's better than nothing. You got to make a choice, whether it hurts or helps. You got to make a choice. And sometimes that's hard, and it's hard later because then you second guess yourself. Should I have done that then? Should I have done it later? Should I have done it at all? And it's hard. We beat ourselves up more than anybody else, I promise you.
Well,
and you never know when it's going to hit you.
That's
Oh.
right.
You can go.
It may be then, it may be next year, it may be 2 weeks, it may be right in the middle of
Right.
supper.
You can go to a dozen traffic accidents, and the first 11 will not faze you. And you go to that 12th one, and there's something that just
something.
hits you in the heart,
Yeah.
and it just sticks with you.
And you've been to worse places
And
in
you-
worse conditions, and
Exactly.
it didn't affect you that
and
way.
it sticks with you, and you take it home with you.
And you guys, when you see, and I guess I can see it from both sides, because I don't work in these areas that you work in, but yet I'm involved with somebody who does. But we all have a tendency. We get a lead foot, for instance, and we're going down the road, and darn, there's that blue light. Wonder what he's got smart alecky about now. Don't do that, because I tell you what. A guy stopped me. I don't even know whether it was a sheriff's deputy or policeman now, but he stopped me. My husband was in Saudi Arabia, and I had my foot in it. I was claiming to do that because I had to go up a hill in my son's car that wouldn't run very well, and that was true, but still, he stopped me, he pulled me over, got my license, asked me why I was in such a hurry, and he seemed to have a cocky attitude, but you know what? It was the best thing he ever did for me, because he said, and I was begging him, don't give me a ticket, because I was getting ready to go and pick my husband up coming home from Saudi Arabia, and I just couldn't afford to go if I got a ticket, and sob. Well, he didn't write me a ticket, and it was really funny. He handed me my license. He said, I'll be right back, and he left. And I just sat there with my mouth open. But what he told me before he left was, if you don't slow down, your husband is not going to see you in Savannah, or wherever it was. I think it was Savannah. but he's going to hear about you. I'll be right back. And he did come back. And he might have saved me, or he might have saved somebody else down the road, or I might have been lucky and not anything happened. But when these guys get callous like they have to do, they've seen something that makes them respond the way they do. If they talk a little gruff to you, if you're in the way when they're trying to do medical treatment, and I know she's talked about people that she was trying so hard to get somebody in that ambulance, get them out of there, and the families were hanging on. If they get gruff with you, they've got a reason. So appreciate that gruffness and know how they acquired that gruffness. There's reasons behind everything they do and just the way they do it. Okay.
Well, speaking a
Yeah.
little bit about how it affects you, I read an article recently which just astounded me. And I know as far as PTSD, it happens in all of our professions.
Mhm.
And I know this is a particular problem on the police side. But I read that this year for the first time, or last year for the first time, more firefighters committed suicide
I was going to say
Then-
something
Really?
about that too.
than we had line of duty deaths. We had line of duty deaths down to 93, and we had 109 firefighters commit suicide. And I think we had 140 police officers, if I'm not mistaken.
EMS numbers high too.
Yeah. So, you know, and it's,
Because you just
we don't
sometimes
know,
can't handle it anymore.
you don't know what the issues are, but, you know, we do take some of this stuff home with us.
Mm-hmm.
And some folks just can't process it as well as others. I mean, you know,
Well, it's physical, it's psychological, and it's emotional.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's hard at 40 years old to lose your body.
Mhm.
It's hard to not be able to just go sit on a curb in the parking lot, which you've always been able to do. And all of a sudden, at 40 years old, you can't even go sit on a curb because you're back or you're this or you're that. You know, and I mean that gets to you. And then the psychological part, the emotional part, they just keep on and keep
I'm
on.
sure
and
your
keep on.
families are down your throat all the time because you can't go to little Jimmy's ball game, or why can't we go out to dinner? Well, honey,
Or you
I
work
don't-
on Christmas, or
Yeah, and I'm sure that's a big
Well,
factor, isn't it?
I got a break there. My wife's in law enforcement too, so I
Oh.
get a break there. So
well, I got a great
understanding.
family, so I get a break
Yeah.
too. But
Well, at the same time, I know Jamie is raising 3 little girls, and my husband and I live next door, and so we try to help her as much as we can. But there are days that she has to work, and she used to work 24-hour shifts. Now she works 12-hour shifts. And so there are things that she misses with those kids, and I'm sure they miss you missing those things. And your husband and your son. And
well, the simplest thing is we don't even get to sleep in our own bed 3 times a week. Just something simple that people take for granted. We don't even sleep in our own bed. We don't even take shower in our own shower, use our own toilet, you know, for 3 days out of the week. It's not even ours.
and you know, all of you guys, you 36 years and you
30.
30 and you a total
22.
of 22 years that they've been doing this under these conditions, knowing the risks, knowing the physical, the mental, the emotional situations that they're going to go through, and they still are there, and they choose it. They choose it because they care. We need to care about them. Now, this brings me to a point here, and I'm going to let you guys give a closing remark here in a minute because I know there's probably something you want to say, and I definitely want you to say it. But one of you guys' brothers, and his name is Captain David Davis, and he's with the Opelika Fire Department, and he also works, I believe, with Columbus, with
Care
Ambulance. Care Ambulance, he's a fire medic. 2 full-time jobs. He told me that he would work at Opelika as a firefighter. He would go work out, keep that body in good physical shape so he can do his job. That's the big thing, do that job. And that's how he got his nickname Double D, because of his biceps, and you can figure that one out. But then he would go to Columbus and work on the ambulance because he cares. He wants to help. He doesn't want to stop, and he doesn't want to let that mind slow down enough to think about what's happening. I'm not there to fix it. Well, March 15th, there was just a really totally unpredictable, these things do happen, no matter how careful you are. Totally unpredictable accident. And he was severely burned, upper torso, most especially arms and hands. He's lost a portion of 7 fingers already, and they're just hoping they can stop the gangrenous progression before he loses his hands. They initially wanted to amputate hands. So he's hanging on. Well, you know what? I'm sure, being on the job, that probably the fire department's going to pay those medical bills. That's wonderful. And if he can't work anymore, they're probably going to give him some kind of pension. That's wonderful. But what happens today and tomorrow and next month while he's not able to get back at work to his house payment and his car payment, his cell phone, his light bill, his water bill, these things that don't stop. They're hard under the best of circumstances. They don't stop. And he can't wait to get back to work. Now, who does he take care of in that line of duty? Opelika, Columbus, Georgia. That's all of you people, probably the majority of you who are watching. And he can't wait to get back to work. And he has a thing on his Facebook page that says, I chose this life. He didn't have to do it. And he's going through some really tough times right now, physically, emotionally, financially. The least we can do as a community to just say a simple thank you is to help him financially. We can't fix his burns, and we can't fix his sadness, but we can help pay his bills. He Ain't Heavy is the name of the benefit. It's gonna be a 12-hour benefit. Starts with a motorcycle run. It's gonna be absolutely fantastic. Harley Davidson Place in Opelika and the Harley Davidson Place in Columbus, Georgia will start the run. 200 to 400 riders. They're going to meet after their run in the middle at centrally located venue. David McBride was just ever so kind as to let us use his tremendously huge and nice place on a Sunday for this event. Great parking. It's called Buckwild Saloon on Highway 280. Easy to find. But it's $20 a person. $20 a person? Well, what do you suppose all these medical bills entail? What do you suppose these ongoing bills entail? That's very, very cheap. You would spend $20 getting junk food at the grocery store. Come out and help Captain Davis. It's going to start with a bike run at 1:30 Eastern Time. There will be a total of 10 musical groups, everything from country music to blues to southern rock to metal, a little oldies, something for everybody. Come out and listen to the good music, and it's not to entertain you so much as it is to raise money for Captain Davis, and the entertainment is for you as a way to say thank you for giving back just a little what these guys give us every day. He is our own. They're talking about brothers and sisters. Guess what? He's volunteered to be our brother, and he ain't heavy. He is our brother, so let's help him. Now, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but you can go to my Facebook page, or you can go to help me out here, Tim. The show Columbus, and you will find all the details you need to on this concert and bike run. But I want you guys to, whatever you would like to add to this as a closing statement or any information that you would like to give out, I'd like y'all to each have a turn to do that now.
We're just real simple, and it's the same thing that I tell my cadets every year. You know, if you want to make a career in this profession, I'm talking about fire and EMS, then you've got to be willing to buy into it. Mm-hmm. And you've got to be willing to make it an adventure, to paraphrase the Army's logo. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for a paycheck, you're in the wrong place. If you're looking for a paycheck to do a job, you are going to hate this profession. Mm-hmm. You are going to hate this job. And I try to instill that into them, and we want them, not that we want to run people off, but not everybody's cut out to do our jobs. You can be the greatest person in the world, but you might not be cut out to be a firefighter. We had a ranger come to us one time, and I think he made it 2 days through our training academy, and he decided that this wasn't for him.
Wow.
Great guy, utmost respect for him, and he recognized it, and then he decided that this wasn't what he wanted to do. So we tell them that every year, so we get those people who want to do public work and who want to work for the betterment of our community, like Lieutenant was talking about. Mm-hmm. And another thing that I like to tell them at graduation, and this is a little paraphrase from a battalion chief in New York City. He said it about 100 years ago. He said that the day someone signs up to be on the fire department, that is the bravest day of their life. Everything after that is just another day at work.
Wow.
And that's what we try to look at, because we don't go for the hero status. We want to do our job to serve the people in our community. We get called most of the times. We go see these people on their worst day, and we know what they're dealing with, and we want to help make their day better any way that we can. If we can ease their situation at home, or if we can, get them to the hospital within that golden hour, and we can help them in that fashion. That's our job. And then we put our stuff back on the truck, we go back to the house, and we wait for the next call.
Thank you so much.
Well, I really don't have a whole bunch really to add to it. This job is, like I said earlier, is a calling, and just like Captain Hull just said, it's not about, if you're looking for a paycheck, you're probably not going to see one from us. So I can assure you that.
You
But
see a small one.
you may see a little bit.
You get paid weekly, right?
It's bi-weekly, but it's
WEAKL, right?
yeah. Well, that would be true, but it's not about the money. It's
Right.
when you can help someone that was in dire need of help, you're able to make somebody's day a little better, or you're able to stop a crime that was being committed, and strong arming someone that could not protect themselves. Anything that you can do to make life a little bit better on that call for that person, that's what the call is. It's about helping the community. And one thing about this job, if your heart's not in it, you probably ought to find a job elsewhere, because it's not going to work for you. You got to have your heart. Your heart's got to be in it, and you got to want to do this job, because it's not something that's going to come easy if you don't. You can't fake this job.
Right.
Right.
So you can't fake it. So it's and that's about all I can say. For 30 years I got up and I've answered the call, and I've loved every step of it. I love these guys. They picked me up off the asphalt a couple times on the motorcycle crashes. So
We like it when you show up
They're
too.
right there. So hey, I'm all for these guys. I'm gonna give them the kudos. They picked me up in that golden hour and got me to the hospital. So I'm one of their biggest fans. So I'm just but honestly, I loved every step of it. I know I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but try to pay forward a little bit before I head out the door. And but I've enjoyed every step of the journey here. So.
Jamie, what are your thoughts?
Well, I just want to say we're all people. At the end of the day, we're all people, whether we wear a uniform or not. And, we show up in our uniform with respect, and we just want to help. You called us, we just want to help. We want to make it better. Just have a little respect for us as the same. Just because we wear uniforms don't mean we think we're better than anybody else. It's just the policy. If I could go in my T-shirt, I would. But my partner may not find me. But I just want to say we're all people. We don't think we're better than anybody else. As a matter of fact, it makes us feel better when you smile. When you smile and you say thank you, that's all I need. That's really all I need to get me to the next shift. One thank you. When they get hurt and I have to go get them, then that's a bad thing. And we appreciate you way more than you appreciate us, I promise. But I just, and pull to the right. Please pull to the right, not the left or the middle.
Yeah, really.
What did I
think
miss?
they took that out of the
When you hear
driver
siren.
license book,
Oh,
emergency vehicles. They pulled it out of the book. It's not even in there anymore. Pull to the right. If you can't pull to the right, stop.
Stop, yeah.
That's all we want. But we're people too. That's what I want to get out is we're people too. We don't think we're any better than anybody else. And when we show up large and in charge, it's because we want to make a difference, not because we want you to see us in our uniform.
and I'm glad you said that, because Jamie has worked as supervisor before, and I kind of have an advantage because I've heard a few tales and seen a few things, but that golden hour that they mentioned, somebody's got to take charge, and they've got to make sure that everything happens quick, right.
Well, and we all have type A personalities. And again, if you don't have type A personality with your heart, you won't make it either. People won't listen to you. Sometimes you have to sound a little arrogant or aggressive. Doesn't make you aggressive or arrogant. You just have to do that to get attention.
Yeah, and you've got to get that job done, and right then it's that patient's welfare or that victim's welfare, whatever, that's at stake more than anything else, because you can fix hurt feelings later.
That's right.
But you got to take care of that person. So if these guys come across gruff, appreciate it, because they have a reason. They have a reason, and it's all for us. It's for us. And I want to take this opportunity right now to thank each of you. I mean, I'm not even living in your district. Well, yours I do. No, because you're in Columbus now. I don't live in any of their districts. If I call 911, somebody else will come, but they're all a family. And I want to thank every one of you and the departments that you work for what you do for us as a community. You save our lives. You keep us safe. You make the world a better place for us. We know that you're there, and that makes us feel secure enough to go to sleep at night. And that means more. And to know the sacrifices you've made and the time you've spent training, and you go home and you think about these things that you've been through, and your families don't get to see you like they'd like to. You eat a lot of cold suppers if you eat them at home at all. But you choose that, and that's enormous. That is enormous. And I just want to tell all of you, you're my daughter even, how much that means. Don't let me do this. How much that means to me. It really does, and I'm serious. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here and letting me share that with the people, because I want everybody to know. I really do.
Well, we appreciate you bringing us on here and letting people know about what we go through and
Yep.
what affects us.
Thanks for recognizing
Yeah.
us.
You're so
Hoping it stumbled through it too bad, so.
Oh, it's been great. It's been great. Tim, your turn. Will you hand me a Kleenex?
No, I actually was just fascinated listening to the stories that
Thanks.
that these individuals were telling, and it kind of made me see them from a whole different light, and
Then I done a
made
good
me
show.
appreciate
then.
it too.
That's what I wanted.
About the only thing I have to do now is go calm down my wife, because she called me on my cell phone and said, "Tim, there's a police officer at the front door." So I have to tell
her I'm sorry,
her,
I went
no,
the wrong
that's a
door."
gentleman was coming on the show. But
Yeah, tell her I'm sorry I went to the wrong door.
no, I should have made that clear, but didn't do it. We were too busy dealing with the wasp at the time.
Yeah.
So
One more thing, May 20th, Buckwall Saloon, Highway 280. The concert will begin at 1:30 Eastern Time. That's when the bikes somewhere in that neighborhood will show up. If you want to see quite a sight, be there. If you want to get involved in the motorcycle run, it's open to the public, and it's for a wonderful cause to help Captain Davis. Please, please, please go to the Show Columbus on Facebook, and I will make sure that you know who you need to contact right away. It's just Cindy Griffith or Ronnie, spelled R-O-N-N-I, Fetty. But I'll make sure you know how to get involved in that. But come see us, and you can enjoy a really wonderful evening, and at the same time be doing something really wonderful for your fellow man. And I personally would appreciate it if you would do that. And I know Captain Davis would from the bottom of his heart. And he said he's going to try to make an appearance there. He may not be able to stay very long, but he wants to at least come in and say thank you, and I can't wait to see him.
Well, I just want to say that he is an awesome person. It has nothing to do with being a fireman or a medic, that he is an awesome person, and he risks his life above and beyond a lot of people. Like, he's very professional and he's very thorough. He deserves all the goodness out of all of this.
That's right. Thank you guys so much.